Hi everybody, it's tarot time. Are you ready? Welcome to tarot, our second class. Today we are talking about two of my favorites. It won't surprise you, I'm sure. We're talking about the High Priestess and the Empress today. And these are two of the most powerful female figures in the entire tarot. And so I really thought it was fitting. I loved actually how the cards lined up once I laid them out in these duos. Because, next month it's the Emperor and the Hierophant, that's a natural combination too. The two strongest faces of masculine power next month. So this month we're going to really be focusing on the divine feminine. Next month we're really going to double click on the divine masculine. And then we'll have a place from which to compare and contrast. Do you like my queen ring? I actually found that in Tucson. I was really excited. I know we're all collecting queen rings. Then we'll have a place from which to compare and contrast these faces of power. And what does it mean to take up the mantle of feminine power versus, or maybe in contrast to, or in addition to, these faces of masculine power, which have their own unique gifts to offer. And a lot of us, myself included, I consider myself really a strong balance of masculine and feminine. Part of it is I'm named after a warrior goddess, right? And so I've always carried this mantle around in my life. I also have Venus in Virgo. Venus is the planet that governs how you love, and I love like a Virgo, which is a strong, grounded, really earthy, rooted love. And so the way I love and move and lead in the world is very, very masculine, truth be told. I'm named after a virgin goddess. The planet, my love planet, is in Virgo, which is also considered to be a virgin placement. So there's this essence of pure power and pure potential in my profile that I've always enjoyed. But there are parts of it that are difficult too, and we're going to talk about that with the High Priestess today, which is an archetype that I really identify with in my work in the world, and you probably do too. So I'm really excited to get started. I have my notes. We have a lot to talk about today. I have all the tools. If you have your candles and your gemstones and your perfumes, you should have those with you because we're going to use our tools. By the way, so when you give feedback, I really listen. And a lot of you said, I want the tools, but buying the whole kit together is either too cost prohibitive or I don't need all the tools. I'm a candle person, but I'm not a gemstone person. Or I'm a gemstone person, but I'm not a perfume person. So now if you go to sagegoddess.com and you search tarot, you're going to find all of the kits with a drop-down menu. So you can just get the pieces that you want. I hope you enjoy that. Because I really do want you to have the tools. And it may be that you collect them over time, or it may just be that you want to work with the perfumes. This month's perfumes, the Empress and the High Priestess, are designed to be worn together. That's how I wear them. I'm wearing them together right now. I've been wearing them together for the last 2.5 weeks. I love them, and so I do recommend mixing and matching. If you're a perfume person, maybe just for now you just get the two perfumes. Working with the essential oils for these archetypes, which, by the way, are really rooted in history. I did a lot of research to figure out what is it that the High Priestess would wear. What oils really capture her essence, and same with the Empress. What oils would represent that passionate, deep, feminine well of beauty and desire that is the Empress? What would capture that? So hopefully you like them. I worked really hard on them. So we're going to talk about all the stones, the oils, the perfumes today. We're going to, of course, talk about the cards themselves. We're going to begin with the High Priestess, because where else would you begin with these two cards that line up right next to each other in the major arcana? High Priestess is 2 and Empress is 3. If you are a 2 or 3 life path, we're going to talk about that today as well. What does it mean to have a 2 life path versus a 3? They're really, really different life paths. My daughter is a 3 life path, and I see it in her already. The 3 life path is a little bit of a fumbling life path. It's not a bad thing. The 2 life path is the union, right? And so people who have a 2 life path, one of their primary responsibilities or missions in this life is to find a partner. Does that resonate with you? Most of the 2s I know are in a solid, long-term, foundational partnership, and that is the primary focus of their energy in this life. The 3s, and this is true of the suits as well, what a 3 represents is taking that union and adding on to it. And so it represents fertility and family, but also there's like a burgeoning of energy, because 2 is a union, but 3 becomes the triangle. 3 becomes the trifecta, right? 3 becomes a burgeoning of that energy and an explosion of that energy into the world. But a lot of times it's not focused. It's only when you get to 4, which is a foundational card. Only at 4 do you have a really firm foundation. At 3, there's still a wobbliness. Think of like the 3-legged stool metaphor, right? There's still a wobbliness at 3. In any case, so we are still in the sort of the nascent stages of the development of the major arcana at the High Priestess and the Empress. The Empress, remember, each card builds on the last. That's why I consider this to be a journey. And it's the Fool's journey, it's the hero's journey, right? We talked about this last time with the meta myth or the mega or monomyth from Joseph Campbell's work, and how really, at the end of the day, this is the Fool's journey to evolve into himself, into a fuller, deeper, and more expansive, more powerful vision of himself. And so the Fool is encountering each of these archetypes along his path, and each one of them gives him what I consider to be a gift. So today we're going to talk about the High Priestess first, and then we're going to talk about the Empress and what they offer, because they offer really powerful things. And then I'm going to leave you with some questions, I'm smudging while I talk to you. You must always smudge. Please, please, please. Couple things you always have to do. We talked about this before. You always want to smudge really well. And so I'm smudging you, smudging my cards and my tools. Every day I smudge my phone and my computer too. I don't know about you, but because I talk to people, and then there's a craziness of Facebook, and I just always smudge my phone and my computer. So it's probably a good habit for you to get into of doing that as well. Pulling a little bit up over for myself. Get my smudge fan here. Just a little. That's what using a feather does. It just allows you to spread the smoke a little more evenly. So good. I just love how white sage, like, automatically, if there's any like stuck energy or anything resistant in the field, white sage just clears it. You don't have to do anything special or say anything special. It does the work. It's good stuff. We make really nice white sage too. If you're not too familiar with Sage Goddess and what we do, a lot of you are, but we harvest all of our own white sage from a white sage farm, and so it's organic, 100% FDA approved organic white sage. It's sustainable. It's not none of the plants are harmed in the harvesting of this white sage, and we wrap all of our own bundles here in the shop. So every single white sage bundle that you buy from us was made here, which is really nice. A lot of metaphysical places that you go to, you buy a white sage bundle, I don't know where it was wrapped. And they're wrapped so tightly that they don't even catch a flame. So we wrap ours, we've got it sort of down to a science in terms of like how tightly to wrap it so that it burns really nicely, but it still stays together. I hope that you love the sage that you buy from us. So I'm going to use my wand. If you're using selenite, that's great. I have a personal wand that I use, which has all sorts of magic associated with it. So I'm just going to use my wand to open a circle. I take the wand behind me and continue around so that I have fully opened a container of energy. You do that clockwise to open the circle and counterclockwise to close the circle. And these are things you need to do every time. There are some protocol things that are optional. Do you know what I mean? And there are some protocol things that are really, really important. In terms of tools that you should have with you, I didn't talk a lot about this last time, but I want to show you some gemstone options that you can use to enhance your readings. People, when they come into my office, always notice that I have clear quartz spheres all over the place, and I do, because these to me are important tools. They raise energy and they send energy in all directions, and I do believe that clear quartz helps develop your intuitive capacity and your empathic ability. It raises the vibration in a space, which prevents any low or stuck vibrations from maintaining themselves. It's really hard for low energy to exist in the presence of quartz, because quartz is up here, low energies are down here, and what quartz is going to do is try to raise the baseline vibration of any energy in a room or in a space. And low energies and dark energies really are opposite to what you see in my hand. So it's hard for them to maintain themselves. Same thing in the presence of sage. Low energies, stuck energies, dark energies really can't maintain themselves in the presence of sage, which is why we smudge. These are in the shop. I have little ones. You don't have to have a big one. I have little ones. They're about this big. They're called wishing spheres. They're gorgeous. And so if you want a clear quartz sphere, I'll put the link up for you too to get one of those. And I want to show you this today, which won't last very long, but I wanted to show you. If you're looking for a stone to keep with you as you read that protects you, protects your energy field, protects the integrity of the space that you're holding, petalite is my go-to. This is the piece I always have. This is the piece that sits at my desk. Has a sexy rainbow in there. I don't know if you can see that. That's my personal piece from my office, where I'm sitting now. So I have medium and large pieces coming to the shop today. They're in the shop right now of petalite. I call petalite the white velvet cloak of protection because honestly it's more protective than hematite, black tourmaline, obsidian, any of the root chakra stones. It's a crown chakra stone, but it connects you with source, and I think it brings what I would call Holy Spirit energy into a space, however you think of that, but it brings the most divine protective white light into your space that you can imagine. It's great to wear, and we can wire wrap it for you, but petalite is another one you might want to have. I found it in Tucson, which is why I'm telling you. So it's going up as an insider offering today in my Gem Show Insider group, but there might, by the time you see this, there might still be a few pieces left. And if you're looking for a really powerful protective stone, petalite is the way to go, truly. Some of them have black tourmaline in them because petalite grows with tourmaline. Those are the really sexy ones when you find one that has black tourmaline. These pieces don't, but some of them do. Okay, so we have smudged, we have opened the space with a wand, any kind of tool that you're using. This particular one that I'm using has trigonic quartz with healer's gold, which is one of the reasons I love it. Healer's gold is a combination of magnetite and pyrite, which is for manifestation and empowerment. So I find this to be a very protective and empowering tool for me personally. And now we're going to talk about the cards. So we're going to begin by talking about the High Priestess today, and I'm going to light her candle. This is my High Priestess. If you're new to tarot, then you may not know that this was all art that was designed in-house at Sage Goddess, and one of the unique features that we did was incorporate gemstones into the cards, because really there's no tarot deck on the planet, and I searched, that incorporated stones into the cards, and that was important to me just in terms of my vision for what I wanted our cards to look like. So here we go with the High Priestess. Lighting her card and just moving into her energy space now, and take a moment when you light the candle to connect. So just calling in the energies of the High Priestess today to guide us as we talk about her here in our tarot class. So thankful for your presence here, for you. I'm thankful for her energy and the representation of her energy in this space. Calling upon her wisdom, her peace, her knowledge, her centeredness, her balance, her alignment. She represents all of those things. So we are thankful to have you with us today, High Priestess. And her stones are moonstone and lapis, which won't surprise you either. So I have her gemstones right here. This is rainbow moonstone. So magical. There are also rainbow moonstone necklaces coming in the shop today too. I'm a little obsessed with rainbow moonstone. And then lapis, which is I consider the queen stone, is a very important stone for the High Priestess to represent that elevation, because really she is. She's a figure of elevation. You know, she raises the game. So we find our fool at 0, right? And he's got his little pack over his shoulder, and I mean he doesn't know what he's getting himself into. We talked about this last time. He has no clue. He encounters the magician, who has a good sense of what's ahead on the fool's path. The magician isn't going to tell him everything, though. The magician wants you to learn, and the magician wants you to learn to use your tools. And one of the things, even for me in my role, and you may have experienced this in working with me, is, you know, I don't have all of the answers, and I don't think people need all of the answers. I think you have the information you need at any given time to do the work that you're required to do. I really believe that. I believe that you have the information you need at any given time to do the work that you're required to do. And so really the only person you need to turn to is yourself. You need to look within. And then you can seek spiritual support from your guides, from God, however you think of the divine, from angels and archangels and ancestral spirits and beings who are around you. I do believe you can call upon all of those to work with you. But at the end of the day, you know, I think we come to readers because they can share with us the wisdom from the cards, and they can channel for us some messages from beyond. But I really do believe that you, and this is the message of the magician, you have the wisdom you need right now to do what you need to do and do it well and do the work that you're being called to do in the world. The magician is there to empower the fool and say, look at this table. Here are all the things. Choose wisely, right? Then he encounters the High Priestess. Now, I want to tell you she's a 2, which represents the union. For her, though, the union is not physical or romantic. The union is spiritual for the High Priestess. This is really, really important for you to know. The union for the High Priestess, because remember, 2 always represents the union. The union for the High Priestess is spiritual. She is in a soul relationship with God. And that is represented by all of the imagery on the card. She's holding the Torah, which is, of course, a text of wisdom. She's standing between the pillars of wisdom and also the pillars of light and shadow. She has the cross around her neck, which tells you that she is of the divine. She belongs in the spirit world. And she has at the base of her dress, she has the crescent moon as well as the triple phase of the moon on her headdress. There is another version of this card, an older version, like pre-Rider-Waite version, that actually shows her headdress having 4 points, very much like a medieval design. And so if you have seen that representation of her headdress, it represents the 4 elements. And so what you're seeing is she's crossing all the traditions. Do you know what I mean? Literally, almost every major religious and spiritual tradition in the universe is represented here on the card. The flowers behind her represent eternal life, but also the crossing from life to death. And so all of that is there. Each of the major arcana cards of the tarot have correspondences, even to the day of the week. So the day of the week associated with the High Priestess is Monday. And like I said, she's a 2. So if you're a 2 life path, you represent the High Priestess. Let's talk about what that means. And I'm going to be looking at my notes here and there, so bear with me. I want to make sure I cover all the bases. So some keywords for the High Priestess. What are the keywords for her? I would say they're faith, trusting the divine. And as we talk about her today, think about yourself. Think about taking on the mantle of the High Priestess. That's what the tools are designed to do. And I've got my perfume on, but if you don't have yours on, take a moment just to anoint with the oils. And let the energy of that High Priestess oil call you into this moment to connect with her. The notes in the High Priestess oil are lavender and neroli. There's jasmine, there's rose, and there's cedar wood. So it's all there in this blend. It's very floral. There's a little bit of a sweetness to it too. But that's designed to show you that she's still feminine. Even though she's a strong, and some say kind of cold figure, the High Priestess, that some call her frigid. I wouldn't go that far, but she does not represent the creative, procreative potential. She represents wisdom and knowledge and faith and connection to God. So knowledge is certainly one of her themes. We're going to see that theme picked up next month when we begin to work with the Hierophant. So we'll be echoing some of the things I'm saying today when we start to talk about the Hierophant and the Emperor. She also represents patience. One of the things people ask me all the time, what are the sort of hallmarks of spiritual practice and development? And one of them, I think, is the acquisition of a strong sense of patience and timing. When you act quickly and rashly in your life, like something happens and you respond right away, and sometimes you respond out of anger or fear or whatever your emotion is in that moment. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you do that, that is the exact opposite of the High Priestess. Think about it. The High Priestess, anything can happen to her, and she's not going to react. And there's a real power in sort of, and not because she is not going to react ever, but she's not going to react right away. There's a sense of the ability to wait. I was watching a television show. It was a really popular television show a couple of years ago. And there's a line that stood out to me, and it reminded me so much of that High Priestess energy. Even the moment I was watching it with my husband, I looked at him and I'm like, that is so High Priestess right there. The line was, never underestimate the power of a patient leader. Never underestimate the power of a patient leader. And in the show, what was happening is all these people were coming after this person, and he didn't do anything. And then it made all those people stop and go, why isn't he doing anything? And he was plotting a much bigger reaction to what was happening that was going to take months. But nobody could understand why he wasn't all riled up about what was happening. And he said, never underestimate the power of a patient leader. And what he actually ended up doing months later in the show was so powerful because it was calculated and strategic. And at the end of the day, much more impactful than any kind of like quick, immature, harsh, fast, rushed reactions he could have had. And that's the High Priestess, I guess, in a nutshell, is, events, situations, relationships. If you think about the High Priestess as being a figure of patience and wisdom, and when something comes to her, what she's going to do is wait and listen and connect with Source and pray, truly, because she's a figure of prayer and connection and religious significance. She also has clarity. There's something really powerful about someone with clarity, don't you think? Think about the High Priestess as a figure that you could go to for counsel, right? Because you could bring her almost anything, and she would, sort of imagine her standing between the pillars of wisdom and holding the Torah and feeling this connection to God, and you bringing some situation to her and her sort of weighing it all. And you saying, what should I do? And her saying, maybe a response could be, wait, listen, discern what needs to happen. Don't react, because reaction is always in the place of ego. And the High Priestess is the exact opposite of that. Anytime you are engaging your ego, you are not acting from a place of spiritual maturity. We've talked about this in other contexts too. If you're in my other classes, we're talking about spiritual maturity right now. And so if you react from a place of ego in your life, whether that's jealousy or greed or fear or anxiety or whatever it is for you. And it's a constant struggle. I mean, I work on it actively in my life because this is the work I do. But some people don't even think about it. And all day long I deal with people who are so deep in their ego, they just have no clue. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm sort of surprised sometimes, really that person said that or that person did that? And it's not, most of the time it has nothing to do with me. I'm just watching other people, or people are bringing me their problems and asking for my advice. And it's just sort of if people are that deep in that place of ego, to the extent that they can't even see it, right? And a lot of times that's the trick of ego, is that you can't see it. You can't see it. It's true. So the High Priestess would be a really powerful place for you to meditate. If you pull the card, it means that energy is needed. Her energy, her wisdom. It means it is time for you to sit back. Roll your shoulders back, straighten your back, sit and receive and listen and discern and connect to Source and meditate and ask for guidance and not act until you feel like you've received that guidance. That is the message of the High Priestess. Okay, so what else is happening with her? For me, the High Priestess represents a place within you that trusts. Let me say that again. For me, the High Priestess represents a place within you, or within the current, the person who's asking the question, your client, represents a place in you or in them that is a place of complete trust. Trust that things are going to work out, trust that there's a higher power, trust that things happen for a reason, trust that there is a greater wisdom in the universe, trust that there is an infinite intelligence in the universe. And I really believe this. I believe our universe is infinitely intelligent. The way it created you, the way your own body, if you let it, will heal itself. You know what I mean? Your body is constantly trying to get back to homeostasis. Your body is constantly trying to heal itself. Sometimes you get in the way, but your body is constantly trying to heal itself. The same with your soul, the same with your mind, the same with your heart. Your body is constantly trying to do that, and that's because your body has an infinite intelligence. Your body was created as part of this matrix of infinite intelligence that exists in the universe. And we see this so clearly, at least I do, in sacred geometry. You start seeing these basic building blocks of life, and we can get into a whole conversation here about quantum physics and quantum mechanics. But the building blocks of life, your DNA, all the molecules in your body, all of the particles of energy and all the particles of the air and in the environment and everything that you're made of, all have these basic structures, these basic geometric building blocks that they're made of. And that's because everything is one. I'm no different than you. And in fact, we are one. And what's interesting is you're sitting here listening to me, and yet there's a connection between us. And I believe that's true for all living things. But in my life and my work, I see myself as no different from you and not separate from you. What happens to you happens to me. What happens to me happens to you. And that's partly her wisdom too, is getting us to see our common roots and our origins. And she's even doing that in reflecting the union of spiritual traditions on the card. Jews, Christians, so different? I don't think so. Jews, pagans so different? I don't think so. And if you believe as I believe, and this is really what I think, that all of our different traditions, all of our different spiritual and religious traditions have roots in one place. One ancient place that came before anything we know of as modern day countries or spiritual paths or religious practices or anything, that there is ultimately one tradition that underlies it all, and then we were all scattered on the winds to go to these different countries and create what we built. Comes back to this foundational idea, and that's what the High Priestess is trying to tell us. You can hold the Torah or the Bible, you can hold the Quran, and you can think that you're so different. And at the end of the day, it's all one. It's all one path. So she represents that place in you that knows that somehow. Do you know that place in you that has unconditional trust in an infinitely intelligent universe? And I want you to get back there. Part of my desire in teaching tarot this way is I always wanted somebody to go deep on these cards. That's why I've created this course. Truly, I wanted somebody to go deep on these cards, and nobody did. So I was like, well, if nobody's going to do it, I'm going to do it. I've spent my whole life making things that I wanted to have that nobody made. But I want you to think about yourself within each of these cards, because that's how you're really going to learn. And when you see the High Priestess, I want you to stop and say, she's trying to remind us that everything is one. She's trying to remind us that we all come from the same place, and that we shall all return to the same place. And that's where her quiet, composed, aligned, centered, balanced, elegant, some say cold, but I would say just detached perspective comes from, because she's not getting caught up in the minutia. The day-to-day stuff that's agitating you wouldn't bother the High Priestess at all. What a beautiful model that is. Like, what if you went through your life and you weren't, rocked by every storm? Could you do that? Could you do that? It's a question that the High Priestess asks you. Now, she has behind her, some say, that, do you see the curtain? That represents an imprisonment between these pillars of wisdom. I don't necessarily see it that way, but I wanted you to know that that's one interpretation. Now, the way a lot of scholars talk about the High Priestess is they say that she gets inflected. She shows up in different traditions as different archetypes. So you begin with the High Priestess, and then she rolls out into two different places, so they say. The Virgin Mary in the Christian tradition is kind of the closest you come to the High Priestess, right? And then in the Egyptian tradition, we see Isis. And they pull out these particular archetypes because Isis is certainly a goddess of fertility, and the High Priestess is seen as the precursor to fertility. We're going to talk about fertility with the Empress in just a second. So the fool meets the magician. Let me teach you how to use your tools. He encounters the High Priestess. Hey, don't get rocked by every storm. Good things are ahead, fun times are ahead for you. Just remember, you need to stay centered, and you need to remember that you are no different from any of us. We are all you, the fool, and you are all us, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Hierophant, the Emperor, and so on. Yeah, isn't that cool? I love that. What else do I want to tell you here? Okay, so if she spoke, I have some writings to read to you. If the High Priestess could speak, here's what she might say. Ready? Just sit back and take this in. Let's see what you think. If the High Priestess spoke, she might say, I have formed an alliance with the mystery that I call God. Since that time, I see nothing in this material world that is not His creation and manifestation. When I think about my own flesh, wood, stone, I detect within them the energy and the presence of the Creator. Every nuance, every tissue, every variation of reality is one of His appearances that manifests in His infinite variety. Isn't that beautiful? It makes me think of gemstones. I live in the world of divine energy. I shiver with all of matter. Beneath my feet, the entire planet shudders. It is yet another, vaster manifestation of Him. I vibrate in tune with the universe, with fire, with oceans and tempests and stars. The energy of all creation comes to me. And yet I am a virgin being. Nothing has entered me except for the unthinkable God. I do not know impurity. I can make contact with you only in that sacred and untouched place of your being, your virginal essence. If you come to me talking about passion, sexuality, emotion, I will not understand you. I am far beyond all of that, beyond all anguish, and even beyond death. Because if God is in matter, it is immortal, and I no longer have any fears or desires. Isn't that powerful? I therefore invite you to join me with what is divine within you, and if you become like me, you will be able to enter into me. So good. In union with the power that I perceive in everything, my weaknesses and my doubts evaporate. I inhabit my body like a sacred place. I'll read that again. I inhabit my body like a sacred place. I can give myself the position I deserve at any time. I am buried in my work, and no one can cause me to detour from my course. No one can catch me or bind me with his desires, his feelings, his mental projection, and no one distracts me. Isn't that cool? No one can make me deviate from what I want. Personally, I do not want anything. I submit to divine will. Yeah? I give myself to God, who is the only secret. I give myself to God, who is the only secret. So what do you think of that? What do you think? I wish I could hear your voice. What do you think of that? Sit with that for a moment. I'd like you to take your stones, your moonstone in your left hand and your lapis in your right hand. I want you to close your eyes. Take in the scent of the perfume. Close your eyes. And think about the statements that I've made, the things that I've read to you, what I've been teaching you for the last half hour about this figure. And ask yourself some what-if questions. What if you were to inhabit your body as a sacred place? What if no one could distract you with, worldly anxieties and fears and concerns? What if you were singularly focused on living in alignment with divine will? What if? How would your life change? How would your life change? And these are questions that you can ask someone who pulls this card when you're reading these cards, right? Like, this card is coming up, and I think some important questions that it poses for you are, where are you in your spiritual development, and how connected do you feel to God? How moved are you by external circumstances and other people's problems? And can you get to a place where you are so connected to God that you are almost immovable? Can you get to that place? Can you get to that place? So good. Right? Okay, so let's turn our attention now. I'm going to blow out my candle here. Thank you to the High Priestess for her presence today and for giving us her counsel. So it is. And anytime you need her, that's why these candles are here. Do you know what I mean? I work with my magician candle all the time because that's my totem card. But anytime you need the High Priestess's wisdom, light her candle. These candles are created and infused with that energy, that intention, and it will hold that space for you. That's what they're designed to do. If you're a perfume person, put on the perfume. If you're a gemstone person, carry her gemstones with you. In whatever way the tools, call to you to be worked with. So let's turn our attention to the Empress. Quite a different figure here. So I'm going to light her candle. I feel so at peace right now. There's something about the High Priestess. It's, the High Priestess for me is beyond everything's going to be okay. You know what I mean? The Empress is sort of an everything will be okay person. The High Priestess is everything is okay. Everything can only be okay. Does that resonate with you? That for me is why these cards have such a power to them and a call to me personally, because they embody these messages that change your life. When you start living your life from that place of not only is everything going to be okay, everything is okay, and everything can only be okay. It's a different way of experiencing your world. It's so good for you. Okay, let's talk about the Empress. So, the Fool, I keep reiterating, but it's my way of teaching, because I think every time I say things and sort of repeat things, it helps you kind of seal that wisdom. The Fool started on his path has no idea who he's about to encounter. Big folks, right? Big magic on his path. Finds a magician, is learning how to use his tools. Encounters the high priestess, is learning to sit quietly and submit to the will of God, or the divine, however you think of that. Is learning that there is so much wisdom in the world that he may never fully be able to access. That's the other message of the high priestess. Like, look, if you think you're going to learn it all, good luck. I tell that to people too, because they come to me and they think I know everything. And what I tell them is, I'm 42. I've been studying all this stuff since I was 14. In a serious way, really, since my late teenage years. More than half my life. I don't know it all. I know a lot. I mean, I read 2 or 3 books a week, every week. And I'm just a researcher. I just love knowing things about, especially about metaphysics and the universe and energy and quantum physics and everything, right? I'm invested in this work. I don't know everything. And I think if I get to the point where I feel like I do, I can't even imagine that. Like, the universe is so vast, and everything, every time I turn the key and unlock a door, there's 100 doors beyond that one. Truly, like every time, even with the tarot, every time I sort of turn a lock and I open a door and I'm like, oh, okay, now I think I really get what the Empress means. Then the Emperor eludes me, or then the suits will elude me, or then the star eludes me. There's an older version, by the way, of the tarot I was referencing earlier. And in that version, she's not holding the Torah, interestingly. She's holding a book, and on that book are 17 lines of text, which connects her in that older tarot deck to the star. Now, I have not fully unearthed that connection between the High Priestess and the star and what it means because the cards talk to each other, they reference each other. And I don't really fully know what it means that in these older cards, in the older representations, that the High Priestess is winking at the star. But she is. And why, in the next evolution, that original book, and again, it wasn't text, it was just lines, like lines that were drawn. But there's 17 of them, which connects her, and that's the echo. They call it the echo in tarot studies, the echo between the High Priestess and the star. And that is why, even in 40 minutes, I'm only scratching the surface of one card. It's an interesting process. So here we are. Now the High Priestess has told him, get yourself right. You need to get right with the divine. You need to be still and know that God is. You need to understand that there's a higher power than you. You need to submit to the vastness of the universe and this great esoteric wisdom that you'll only ever scratch the surface of in your lifetime. And you can come to me for counsel, and I will hold the space, because that's what a High Priestess does. She doesn't react. She doesn't freak out. She doesn't judge. She doesn't assume. She does none of those things. Those are all human ego things. She holds the space. And people can get frustrated with the High Priestess, right? Like wanting her to act and wanting her to say something and wanting her to do something. She's not going to do that. If you want that, you're going to have to go further down the line in the major arcana to the other figures. The High Priestess is not designed for that. You heard what she said. That she's unmovable. So we come to the Empress. He's probably pretty relieved, the Fool, to see the Empress after the High Priestess. Why is that? Let's take a look. Couple of obvious things to point out to you. Her dress is blue because she's cold. This is like honest to goodness symbolic study, right? Over here we have a dress that is red, and a chair that is red, flowers that are red, because she's warm. So we are moving from what some people call the frigidity of the High Priestess to the passion of the Empress. The Empress is a sexual creature. It is possible to enter her. High Priestess told you what? You cannot enter me. The only thing that can enter me is the unknowable God. Here she is impregnable. I'm not trying to be graphic. I'm just telling you, like, this is the story of the card. Down here, you see the crescent moon? Right there. Powerful symbol. She's basically stepping on it. She's showing you that she holds the power of the elements within her hands and even within her feet. It's all underneath her. It all submits to her, even the moon. Where does that crescent moon go in the Empress card? It's up here. And up here, the crescent moon becomes her neckline. It becomes the entrance to her dress. Very interesting, right? It becomes adorned with flowers with a necklace next to it. And so, whereas over here, the moon is held by her. You know, it's subjugated. Up here, the moon becomes part of who she is, almost connected to her voice, to her throat chakra, right? It's right there. It's around her neck like a jewel. It's very interesting. So the 3 represents the 2 plus 1, the union plus offspring. And that's where you see the Empress. Now, some people say that in this card, she's reclining almost like she's in a delivery position. Let me just tell you something right now. When I was giving birth to my 2 babies, I didn't look like that. Maybe I'm just not lucky, but I looked okay. I didn't look like that. I don't remember looking that happy at all during during any of those laboring hours. But anyway, they say that, you know, she could be giving birth in that position. I think maybe somebody who's never given birth would have said that. Maybe that's true. The color of passion. Here we have the symbol of woman held within the heart to represent the compassion, the divine feminine compassion. We have crops down here, wheat. Whenever you see wheat, it's always associated with goddesses of fertility. These are her crops. And wheat is sacred in almost every tradition. In fact, you know, in the early spring, you have a Roman festival that just celebrates wheat and Ceres and the growing of the crops, the planting of crops, and the forecast for the year ahead and how good the harvest will be. You have trees behind her that are growing and burgeoning and just look alive, right? She does have a scepter, which is her power element. And so she is holding that, but look how she's holding it. It's like there's 2 different. Whoa, sorry. There's 2 different ways to hold a scepter. You can hold a scepter like this, or you can hold it like this, which is kind of what she's doing, right? Like, I'm powerful, but it's not that. It's that, right? So she understands her power. She has, like I said, the moon around her neck and all the stars above her head. Like adornment, like she's wearing the flippin' universe as her jewelry, right? All of that is the symbolism of this card. And there's more. I mean, she's got the river behind her, flowing, fertility next to her. So some key words for the Empress. I'm going to put some more of my Empress perfume on, so I want to have that connection. Scent is one of the most powerful ways in shamanism to connect with the energy of an archetype, because your olfactory senses in your brain are adjacent to a very old part of your brain that it has no capacity for language. It's just a sensing place in your brain. But I believe it's the oldest part of your brain. Maybe that carries forward your karmic wisdom and your past life knowledge. And that's why scent is so powerful. You know, you smell something that smelled like your grandmother, or you smell something that smells like, you know, your home when you grew up as a child, and it just connects you with all of that. And so for me, having these scents that we associate with these major archetypes, it's inviting them in, but it empowers you as well on a different level. So keywords for her: fertility, for sure. She is impregnable. Creativity. You know, she is a sacral chakra card, by the way. Her day of the week, I know we talked about Monday for the High Priestess, Friday is the Empress's day, which I love because that's the day our tarot classes happen. So we are working on her day. Desire. She has desire. Look at the faces. Look at the faces of these 2 cards. Does she look like she desires anything right now? Nope. What about her? There's a softness. Do you see? Even the hair, right? Everything about her is softer. The lips are fuller. The lips are colored and stuff. There's a seduction here. Power. Because seduction, the ability to seduce and be seduced, and the ability to create life is power. At least in ancient times, it was thought to be that way. There is a softness to her. Look at her dress, how it's flowing, the blankets all around her, the beautiful chair. She's seen as an image of aesthetic beauty, right? Everything around her is beautiful and alive and lush and everything that you would want to experience. And she's elegant. There's an elegance. Now, there's an elegance here too. But here is a detached elegance, and this is a connected elegance, right? And this is an elegance that says stay back. This says know your place. This is an elegance that says come closer. Don't you think? I think so. Okay. Now, some people say, and think about this in a reading, right? You pull this card. Let me be very clear about this. I have seen people give readings. I've had people give me readings and tell me that this card means I'm going to have a baby. Please don't ever tell anybody when they pull this card that they're going to have a baby. It does not mean that. Can it mean that? Yes. Does it have to mean that? It does not. The Empress does not mean somebody is gonna have a child. The Empress means there's an energy of possibility. Because she's impregnable, because she's capable of carrying a child, but she could be giving birth to herself. What I often tell people when I pull this card is, you are gestating something. It may or may not be a child, but something is alive within you. And one of your responsibilities right now, so say the cards, is to gestate, to allow whatever that is to grow and flourish within you. You know, it's not time for it to come into the world yet, but you are creating and holding the container for whatever that is. And then you can ask your Aquarian or your client, what is it? You know, do you feel something growing within you? Do you feel like there's possibility within you? What's happening? And oftentimes they'll say, well, you know, I am writing a book, or I'm really holding space for this new business I want to create, or you know, or I would like to have a child, and that may surface. And there are other cards that could reinforce that. When we start going into the suit cards, we'll talk about that. But anyway, the Empress in and of herself, being impregnable, does not mean that the client is about to have a child. It's like Sage Goddess ethics for reading tarot cards. Okay, so if she spoke, you ready? If the High Priestess spoke, the Empress. I want to tell you too, her stones are orange calcite. Do you see a common theme here? Orange calcite is a stone of creativity. It's also a stone of early spring. And that's actually a stone that we've been working with the goddesses in our full moon rituals too. So this time of year is really timely for us to be talking about the Empress, because she represents the month of March and possibility, and she's connected to Ostara as well, and then turquoise, which is another one of her stones, which is strength as well as beauty, courage, all of those things that she represents. So if the Empress could speak, she would say, I am creativity without any determined end. I burst into an infinite variety of forms. It is I who colors the entire earth green after winter. That's what I'm telling you. She's very much associated with Ostara and the coming of spring. It is I who fill the sky with birds and the oceans with fish. When I say create, I mean transform. It is I who caused the seed to burst and the sprout to emerge. If I began giving birth to children, I could breed an entire humanity. That very thought is terrifying to me. I have 2 kids. I'm at my limit, so the idea of breeding an entire humanity is terrifying, but I get the concept. If we are talking about fruit, I produce all the fruits ever known to nature. My mind never rests. A word, a shout, and I engender a world. Wow. I am the creative spirit. Listen to me and allow me to act within you, for I bring healing. Every problem and all suffering comes from an ego that has been fixed by the inability to create. I'm going to read that to you again. Every problem and all suffering comes from an ego that has been fixed by the inability to create. What if creativity and creation is the answer to everything? Have you thought about that? I know for me, when I created Sage Goddess, my health improved. And I think it was a very active creation. And what if people who are sick or unhappy in their lives just have no way of creating what wants to come through them? What a powerful question to ask your client. I've pulled the Empress card for you. What do you need to create in order to heal yourself? Right? Ask yourself that question. Journal about that. I am activity, seduction, and pleasure. There is nothing in me that is not beautiful. Isn't that awesome? There's nothing in me that is not beautiful. There is no depreciation. I am what I am. I am ever full and living, and from the moment I incarnate within a body, it becomes sublime. Nothing and no one can resist me. I am carnal, spiritual, total seduction. In me, there is nothing that is repulsive, ridiculous, or ugly. Let me exalt this in you. I am the pleasure of who you are. I am the pleasure of who you are, without prejudice or morals. You are handsome, you are beautiful. Ugliness is an illusion, a limitation imposed by a sick way of looking at the world. Everything that lives is adorable. I will teach you that all of your ideas are beautiful. You may consider even your most atrocious, most criminal, and vilest thoughts in all their splendor, because abundance of thought is permitted. Abundance of thought is permitted. Let your thoughts shine like the ephemeral stars in the firmament of your mind. Nothing obliges you to put them to practice. Just let them pass by as so many fantastic shapes. You love that? Your feelings are also marvelous, all of them, without exception. What a beautiful jealousy. What a powerful rage. What wonderful sorrow. Do not remain caged up in your castle. Make it a temple with all its doors and windows open, all emotions at your disposal, like a rainbow of subtleties. All of your desires are respectable. Allow yourself to be permeated by desire. Everything in your body is in harmony, the smallest cell in the world. Life is a constant miracle. If you adopt my ideas, you will become a luminous being. If you believe in my feelings, you will attain grace. This is her talking, not me. Every sensation you have of yourself is a path to beauty. Trust in your power of seduction. When the Virgin seduced her Creator, I was there. If she had not known me, she would never have been able to attract him. Seduction is a mystical state. It is the amorous dialogue between the creature and its creator. It is amorous dialogue between the creature and its creator. Seduction is. I believe that. How you feeling? A little bit of sexy time right there. We thank the Empress for her influence today. So good. Okay, so what I would like you to do is take your two stones. I recommend orange calcite in your left hand and turquoise in your right hand. Close your eyes. And meditate with these questions. What needs to come through you? Do you trust? Because this is what the High Priestess would ask you. Do you trust? That's her question. And then the Empress's question is that all your feelings are valid. That seduction is powerful. And to allow yourself to be seduced by your own feelings. Interesting how these two kind of weave together, right? It's like, how are they connecting to each other? The High Priestess is asking you first to stop and meditate and connect with the divine, and then the Empress comes in and says, and the divine is in a constant creative relationship with you. Divine has you here on the planet to create through you, and then you'll die. The end. I didn't mean to wrap that up that way, but it's true. Divine has you here on the planet right now to create through you. And what if sickness and unhappiness and depression and disease are manifestations of your inability or unwillingness to create what you need to create in the world? Big questions, right, that you could ask your current. So this card comes up in a reading. Let's refresh. What don't you ask? Are you pregnant? We don't ask that. First of all, you should never ask anybody if they're pregnant. Have you learned that already? If you haven't, I'm saving you an embarrassing life experience. Don't ask anybody if they're pregnant. So this is not the are you pregnant card. This is the what is trying to give birth to itself through you. What idea, what art, what beauty, because she's all about beauty, what beauty is trying to express itself through you. And did you know that all of your feelings are beautiful? And did you know that your ugliness is beautiful? And did you know that your craziness is beautiful? And did you know that your extravagance is beautiful? Did you know, did you know, did you know? Because she's trying to tell you that. And when you honor that in you, because at the end of the day, and I really believe this, the better part of magic is accepting that you are meant to be just as you are. And I don't care what that means for you. I mean, I care, but I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, whatever you are. And that's how I go through my life. It's just sort of like whatever you feel is a hindrance to you is your beauty. And can you reconcile that? Whatever you feel is a hindrance to you. Whatever other people have told you is not good about you is your beauty. Don't you wish you could tell little kids that? When they're being bullied and treated like crap at school and stuff. And I teach my kids that because my kids have already had like kind of difficult experiences with other kids, and I tell them, whatever they're telling you about you is your place of beauty. And they're just witnessing it and perhaps jealous of it because people are ego-based beings until they evolve. But whatever they're complaining about in you is your beauty. Big important message from the Empress today. So I want you to close your eyes. If you feel called to hold a stone, if you don't feel called to hold a stone, I'm just gonna hold my hands together. I've got all the stones around me though. I want you to just take a moment, and I'm going to call to the Empress and the High Priestess today. Thank you again for your presence here, the wisdom that you're imparting it to us today in this beautiful tarot group that we've created. If there are any messages that you need to transmit to us as readers, as spiritual beings, as empaths and intuitives, please convey those messages to us now. And I would like to ask, and I'm going to ask this every month, that the archetypes that we are working with today make themselves known to us in powerful ways so that when these cards come up in readings, we remember you. Amen, aho, and so it is, with gratitude. So good. So I'm going to blow out her candle. Thank you to the Empress for her wisdom. So good. So first I felt very... And, check in with yourself. First, I felt very, like, peaceful and centered and sort of balanced and stuff working with that High Priestess energy. And now I feel kind of like I need to, shimmy a little bit, to belly dance a little bit. And Empress is something else. But, you're, in my own life, what I've realized is that and it really didn't come forward for me until after I had kids, ironically. I was always a sensual being. Like, I was always in touch with my sexuality, but after I had kids is when I really found myself finding that my sexuality and my sensuality was a place of really divine power for me. Not in a way to manipulate it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not my intention. But I find a lot of power in my sexual energy, and that to me is very much what the Empress represents. Now I think that can be disconcerting for people because a lot of people don't know how to locate their power there. They've either been abused or they've been told that's wrong or religion has told them not to do that or whatever. But I do think that, your lower chakras and in particular your sexual energy is a place of fortitude for you. And that's where if you can connect with that energy, that Kundalini energy or that, that sacral energy has a lot of messages for you about your own personal power. And it's important to tap into that, I think, as women, but men do it too. You push that stuff down, and maybe you don't have a partner, or you've had trouble in relationships or whatever, you push it down. And all of a sudden, one day you look in the mirror and you're like, who is that person? I can't even recognize that person anymore. And so what I want you to do is think about the Empress as an invitation to really dig deep into that sacral energy and pull it up and pull it forward and let yourself feel it. Let yourself hold that energy in your hands, because your sexual energy is not a place of shame. It's not an energy of shame. It's not an energy of pain. If it is, let's heal those wounds and then begin to be able to locate some power there. It will enhance your life. And what's interesting is I have, just as a sort of a side project, because I'm very interested in aging. And so for the last 10 years or so, eventually I'm going to write a book with all the stuff that I've gathered. I just don't have time. But for the last 10 years or so, I have spent a lot of time asking older women and men who have aged really well what the secret is. And do you know what most of them tell me? Beyond sex, because they do say that. But it is maintaining a connection to their sexuality and their sensuality and not losing track of that. Not losing track of it because they've had kids, or not losing track of that because they've been married for 25 years, or not losing track of that because they're too busy. It's like that place in you is really important for you to connect to, and you will age better, your health will be better, you'll feel more vital and alive if you maintain that connection to your sexual center. That's my little spiel for today for you. But learn, sit up straight, roll your shoulders back, and find that seductress in you. That's what the Empress is conjuring a little bit there. And the High Priestess would say that energy is within her too, but her divine union is with God. And the Empress would say that energy is within me, and my divine union is with you, because you are God. Interesting sort of yin and yang energy there, right? So thank you, everybody, for doing this work with me. I'm very, very grateful for you and your presence here. I'm going to open the circle, which just means I take my wand counterclockwise back behind me all the way around and just sort of close the circle. And that closes our course for today. We're at the hour mark. So next month, Hierophant and the Emperor. Really potent faces of masculine energy and power. And they're going to be a really interesting, I think, a profound counterbalance to the energies that you see here. Again, with one more focused on, spirituality and religion to a certain extent, and one more focused on what we might consider more paternal or father-like energy, because the Empress is very much a mother of something. She could be mothering you, or giving birth to you, or giving birth to your art, or giving birth to a child, or whatever. We're going to talk a lot about fatherhood next month, and that'll be interesting, and just in light of what we talked about today, and also piggybacking on the things that we've been discussing as well. So I look forward to that with you very, very much. Head to sagegoddess.com, check out the individual offerings now. Thank you for the feedback that you would like them separate. They are separate. Would love for you to have the candles and the perfumes and the gemstones. There are not an infinite supply of these things. So there will be a point at which they're no longer available. We haven't reached that point yet, but I will give you a heads up. But if you're connecting really deeply with one or more of these archetypes, I want you to be able to have the things without feeling like you have to buy everything all at once. So enjoy, everybody. The petalite is also there. The little clear quartz spheres, selenite sticks, all the things that you need, all the tools that you should have. And I'll try to keep inspiring you with different things that you might think about including in your ritual process. But these are bare bones things. You have to smudge. You need to have a wand to open your circle, whether it's quartz or selenite. And then from there, just connecting with whatever tools resonate with you most in alignment with the major arcana cards. Good news, too, I want to share this with you. My gemstone oracle cards. Sage Goddess has its own deck of cards that I designed that are oracle cards with gemstones. So on the one side is a picture of gemstones taken here. And then on the other side is my interpretation of the card. Those oracle cards are almost done. So they will be coming to the shop in the next month. I'm really excited to have our first deck of oracle cards. And you'll be able to get those on sagegoddess.com and also on amazon.com coming in the next couple of weeks. So I will, as soon as those are ready, I will share a sneak peek with you in our Facebook group. I'm so excited. It was a big day. It's taken us about 6 months from start to finish to photograph all the stones. There's 52 cards in the deck, to write all the descriptions, to really make sure that they're tightened up and beautiful, and it comes in a beautiful box. I can't wait to share it with you. So that's coming soon too. In the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your month. Last couple days of February. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spring equinox, vernal equinox coming up in March. May the coming of spring in the northern hemisphere and the coming of fall in the southern hemisphere bring many blessings to your life. That's my wish for you. I'll see you soon. Thanks everybody for being here.